Hello and welcome to your SUTA elections. I'm joined by sports candidates. Can we have a round of applause, please? Now I'd like you to first introduce yourselves and just tell us what your main policies are. So we'll start on my right, ladies first.
Hiya, I'm Katie Lytowler. I'm running for VP Sports, obviously. My main policies are to enhance all sporting experience for all students, and that's on improvement of participation, performance and Team Southampton community.
Hi, I'm Adam Proudley. My main policies hopefully fulfil my main goal to make Southampton the forefront of sporting universities in performance, participation and progress. I want to increase funding, storage and training times for AU clubs. I want to improve intramural, advertise it more and make it more student-led, and I want to make sport more accessible for all.
Another round of applause for your candidates. So we'll start with quite a broad question. What sports do you both feel are underrepresented at Southampton University? Adam.
Sports. I feel sports that are underrepresented are possibly the more obscure sports. Like, people come from secondary schools knowing of football, rugby, and you come to uni and there's other sports. For example, like some martial arts. I never knew there was such a wide variety of actually different types of martial arts. I just thought karate was karate and taekwondo, but the different styles and different types of karate about. I think it's, and looking possibly, like, I'll take life saving as well. Life saving is my sport. Most people don't actually think it's a sport, but I'd advise you to go and look online and actually look. We swim and we've also got mannequins and stuff on our back, so it is quite hard work. Those types of sport are the more obscure ones, I think, the ones that are underrepresented, and I want to really push forward and make people aware of them.
I would agree with Adam. I would say there's quite a few different sports that, such as korfball, I had no idea that even existed. There's other sports that people, again, don't really think are sports, like life-saving, snooker, sports like that, they're within the AU, but they're not really actually considered, they're not really represented. I also think that in general, intramural needs to have a higher profile in Southampton sport.
Okay, I'm surprised neither of you mentioned Quidditch, which is technically a sport at Southampton University, but we'll move on. How would you improve athletic union sport in general? Incredibly broad question, have a specific answer, either of you.
Yeah.
My background is mostly athletic union sport, and the things that I've seen are problems at the moment are mostly travel problems. So getting two away matches is incredibly expensive. And it's also a problem every week for clubs. We have a problem with a lack of minibuses. It's too expensive to get to matches, and people are finding it very difficult to get there. I also think that one of the main problems is timetabling. At the moment, the way that we run up until 1 o'clock on timetabling, but it means that a lot of our matches, we have to leave at 11 a.m. to start at 2 p.m, and a lot of our teams can't field full teams because people want to stay in their lectures. Obviously, that's what you're at university to do. So that's why I think that's one of the main problems that I think we're not allowing our students to play the sport that they want to play.
Yeah, improving the AU, I think, mainly and huge issue every year is funding. Clubs are always after funding. Without funding, they can't do anything. But also, I think there's a realistic point where people got to realise SUTA only has so much money, and only so much money it can actually allocate. And I want to make sure that's the absolute maximum. But I also want to look externally, allowing extra funding for clubs and having extra money will allow them to develop performance through getting extra equipment, kit. I also want to look at increasing training time. Sport and Wellbeing give us as much training or allocation or pitch and stuff as they can. But I also then want to look for external facilities so clubs can go away and have extra time to go and train so they can increase their performance and participation if they want to start like a third or fourth team if they don't have one in their club.
It's interesting you said about increasing funding for sports clubs. It's in your manifesto. You seem to be aware of the limitations. Where is that money going to come from? How are you going to fund these clubs?
It's looking mainly at sponsorship and trying to get out nationally or like local sponsorships. There's plenty of companies around who will do local sponsorship. And we've now got the Team Southampton kit, so it's an ideal way to go out and have branding put on that. Also, I think a good route to go down is graduate recruitment companies. If teams are going away and competing at other universities, then if you go to a graduate recruitment company and be like, this is a platform for you to get your name out there, we're willing to have it on our kit if you're willing to give us money. Effectively, I think that's the way to go, is looking for increased sponsorship.
Okay, Katie, you probably mentioned your manifesto. You talk about the gym being overcrowded, and you suggest having like a social media update that says when it's crowded or whatever. In the gym, there's already a form where it says, the peak times and when better to go.
Yeah.
Is social media updates, is that just not impractical or not really a solution to the problem? Should we not be advertising perhaps the Team Southampton gym, which is always empty, a bit better?
Yeah. At the moment, I agree with you. I think we should be promoting the Team Southampton gym. There's the Mayflower gym that will be coming into effect when the new halls are built. But fundamentally, people want to go to the gym on campus at 4, 5, 6, 7 p.m. That's the main time. And that the information that you talk about, there's one sheet on the side of a wall that, to be frank, is not very visible. People don't really know about it. I feel like if you can go onto the Sport and Wellbeing website and see how many running machines are being used, how many people are in the weight section, it would be way easier for people to tell whether or not they should be going to the gym at that time. It's very difficult because we have limited facilities and limited funding to increase those facilities. But if we can focus on trying to solve the problem, a short-term problem, then we can set aside and try and look at long-term aims for maybe next year that will improve the gym facilities.
Okay, speaking about long-term aims, what's more of a priority for the two of you? A new sports hall or irrigation at Wide Lane, which is famously never in use this year or last?
Irrigation at Wide Lane, I'd go for the fact. Sports hall, yeah, we just had the old sports hall newly refurbished. I don't think we don't really need. We need an extra one to have training times for clubs. It would be ideal if we could get another one built, but I think we need to work on irrigation at Wide Lane because at the moment rugby games aren't going ahead, intramural isn't going ahead with football, and without the pitches, a lot of teams can't actually go out and play. So I think that's a more fundamental thing to go and get solved for the future years.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the facilities that we've got here, the Sport and Wellbeing gym for Jubilee was only built 6 years ago, and they're not realistically going to completely take away the whole thing and rebuild it again. I think we need to focus on Wide Lane, trying to improve drainage and get more play out of the pitches that we already have.
The drainage has been a problem for years. I mean, I'm a postgrad, it's been that way forever. What about the two of you as candidates makes you think you can change that? What do you envisage being able to do to stop that being a problem?
I think, speaking to Sport and Wellbeing, there are a few plans in place this year to try and increase that in the long run to improve. They've been talking about looking at the grass and seeing if there's different ways they can adapt to help drainage. But obviously, with the recent weather that we've had, it's only set to get worse. It's quite difficult to know what we can do. I think the best ways to do it at the moment are just to focus on making sure we're trying to get the best use of the pitches when they are usable.
Yeah, I've got to agree with Katie. Sport and Wellbeing, they're looking into a plan. I think they've got a plan in place to try and improve it gradually over time and the ways they could go about it. I think it does need to be implemented though. I think it needs to be sooner rather than later, for the fact it's a bit sad when you think Solent have better facilities and training grounds than us, and that used to be actually our old grounds going back. So I think that needs to be improved. If we've gone from better ground, effectively better drainage ground to now where we are. So.
Okay, I'd now like to take this opportunity to go for sports questions for the floor. They've got to be neutrally worded to all candidates, and there can be no point scoring. Lady in the front row.
With 3 possible student leaders who've been very involved in the zone over the last year, and with many possible returning AUC members, do you think you're going to struggle to set your authority over the zone at all?
No, I don't feel so. I've already this year sitting on AUC and intramural committee and being sports participation officer, I've already worked with all you guys and sitting or co-chairing IMC, because intramural officer was only set up this year, so at the beginning of the year, that was between me and Jamie. So I don't feel I have a problem at all being able to assert authority over.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I have a problem with it either. I already know the current people that are in the roles at the moment and get along with them very well. I think the past experience I've had in the committees of the clubs that I've been in, and also the wide range of clubs I've been in, I will be able to sort of have authority in the room. Yeah.
Okay, do we have any more questions? I'll go with guy in the jacket, and then we'll take all the guy in the front.
You said you want to focus sort of on more unusual sports, but what about the sort of more popular sports, but less competition and more casual? So I know there's a lot of people who like to play sports and play throughout school or just generally.
Yeah.
But they don't really have the opportunity, for example, football, rugby, hockey, all those sports. It's very difficult to play those unless you sort of want to play them for the team. And although some of them do have multiple tiers, because there's such a barrier to entry for the big forgetting monster teams, it puts off a lot of people who would like to play those sports casually and stay healthy from being able to do so.
I think you raised a very good point, and the fact that you've raised it suggests there's a problem in the system, in that we actually have the intramural side of things to deal with those people, to help them and to provide a sporting experience for them. But the profile isn't high enough. People don't know about it. When I first came to this university, there was no separate, apart from the bum fight, where it's all AU clubs, there was no place that I could go to find out about intramural sport. I had no idea. I only found out about it until I went to my first lecture and one of the guys came in and talked about it. But I didn't even realise that then you could join other teams. You didn't have to necessarily join the team from your faculty. So I think that that's one of my main points, is to raise the profile of intramural, to make sure that people know about it and to make sure participation is increased as a result of that.
On the point of intramural, there's still, I think, there's a little information on the intramural in that, again, you're saying there's not enough awareness that you don't have to join people of your faculty or your halls. I think for a lot of people, especially those in bigger halls, and bigger faculties, so for example, engineering, it's one big faculty, which is male-dominated, which puts sort of male getting into a sports team at a severe disadvantage. So I mean, maybe there needs to be a change intramural to mean that, although it's still quite competitive, because obviously not sports competitive, but I mean, not make it easier for people who want to play the sports more casually and don't want to be sort of part of a really competitive team able to do so.
In the interest of balance, I will let Adam take this. Does intramural need to be restructured? Does it need to change?
One of my main points is actually make intramural more student-led. I know it's run by Sport and Wellbeing at the moment, but I feel if we have intramural committee, which have done great things this year. We're trying to improve communication. If we have more control over what sports we can run and how the leagues and everything is structured and how teams enter, I feel and working with students, we could probably overcome those issues.
I believe we have one more question. Oh, we've got several. How exciting! Gentleman in the red.
Obviously this year,
Wait for the microphone. Thank you.
this year the sports side of things in the university has been very well done. It's seen massive increases in participation and performance. But where do you think it could have improved?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah. This year, obviously, everything's improved massively on the sports side in participation and performance. How could we have improved on what we've done?
I feel there's still a long way to go with participation. Working this year as participation officer and looking at disabilities, we have implemented already 3 clubs we're focusing on specifically, like coming to the uni or coming into the role and finding out that people are being turned away just because the clubs don't know how to deal with it was shocking, to be honest. And I feel there's still a few steps to take forward where we could improve that a lot. So I'm looking into having booklets given out to clubs about if they're not able to accommodate that student, then there's clubs in the local area they could go to. So I think performance has been kicked in this year already with the AU officer. It's moving. up there. I think participation still needs to be pushed forward.
I think I agree with you. There's a lot of really good groundwork that's gone in this year, and it's something that we can just build upon. I think on the performance side of things, we're still way down in bucks. We need to get ourselves up. We are a very good university. We should have the results, sporting results, to reflect that. And the whole system needs to be connected to drive that to that point. Which is why some of my points are to link up at the athletic union clubs, the intramural, and then recreational users. And that way, we'll have a focused drive for performance to increase our bucks results, but also if we can link it down and have everything linked up, it will make it much easier. We'll get more participation at the lower levels, more talent will be recognised at the lower stages, and that will feed up to help our overall performance.
Okay, and just while we're on the subject, you've both talked about the progress that's been made this year. What do you think about the previous Sabb's tenure, and what would you have done differently? Don't feel awkward because they're in the room.
Don't feel there's much really to be different. Coming with the current Sabb coming in from the Sabb before, anything he'd done I see as kind of being an improvement. I think one area to really cover there is recreational sport. We have pushed forward with performance, we pushed forward the whole intramural. Recreational sport, I do want to see people who just don't really want to join a club but just want to have a kick around. I want them to have access to facilities to be able to do that. So I want to see kit at each hall, so when it's sunny during summer up at Glen Eyre, people can go and get footballs, tennis balls and things, just go and kick around in the grass up at Glen. I also want a facility here where people could hire out rackets and stuff from CC.
Yeah, I think the previous Sabb has done a really good job in the current role, and I think there's one or two areas that have been, because of the fact that there's been a big focus on trying to bring everything back together, trying to sort everything out. There's a few areas that have been left. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but they are areas that we can now focus on and improve. So that's things like trying to get more international student involvement. There's quite an underrepresentation of international students, and we are probably missing quite a lot of talent there. And also there's people that want, there's international students that want to play. We need to increase play. We want to increase participation. Yeah, Winchester as well. Sorry, just remembered.
It's funny, you mentioned international students.
Yeah.
They need more representation.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to do that? How are they going to be more involved? How can we get them more involved in university sport?
I think the way to go forward is during pre-sessional, when they're here overdoing their courses before actually starting their degree. I think have some sort of sporting presence around, maybe hold weekly different sport taster things for them. So while they're here studying, they can also get out and get together, socialise, enjoy themselves. But then when those are going on, make them aware that when it comes to September, that when everyone else comes back, these clubs are going to be starting running again. And during international freshers, try and get an AU presence about, and I also want to put the bun fight online, so have a sporting bun fight online, and really push this towards international students and also other students, so it makes it more accessible.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that we've got to increase at the bum fight. It's a problem because it's quite a big thing to go to, and I imagine that it's quite. I was slightly scared when I walked in. There were so many people around. We need to make sure it goes online and it's much more accessible to people that don't feel like they can go to a big event like that. So that's one way. There is also no international rep or anything like that on the current AUC, and that needs to happen, because without an international rep, we're not going to have the oomph to get more international people involved.
Okay, now I believe we had one more question from the floor, right at the front.
We've touched a bit on it already, to play sports for fun. And I think for the small societies who aren't doing competitions, there tends to be sort of a bit of a divide in terms of funding and support. And I think they feel that because they're not bringing trophies home, they're not necessarily getting the same support that people who are out doing competitions are. So what sort of changes would you make and what measures would you take to support these societies so they feel that CSU can take them a bit more seriously?
There was funding this year. There's been split into performance and development zones. I think the smaller clubs, I think the way to go is possibly increase that development zone so it's kind of in line with essential funding. These smaller clubs can then tap into that more, develop their club more, advertise their clubs more, get financial support that way. Also with my aim of trying to get external funding, more funding will be available, I believe, for smaller clubs.
I think you raise a good point. I think one of the main things that I've got in my manifesto is to try and help clubs to look from external funding more, to look at sponsorship opportunities and to help them to do it. At the moment, clubs like you guys do, but they don't really have the help, the aid to go and look for sponsorships. So that's a way of helping them fund themselves. And then additionally, with the funding from SUSU, I think we need to have a look. There's things like focus sports, where at the moment there's only 5 focus sports. We can increase that. And I think by increasing it, we're going to think about much more clubs that are in the AU and help to not to discriminate so much between the smaller and the larger clubs. We need to give the opportunity for those clubs to increase their performance and to increase their participation. And if we don't give them the funding to do that, then how are they ever going to do it?
Well, we're talking about both participation and performance. I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I want to know what's more important. If you've got to choose one, as your VP, what are you known for? For increasing participation, increasing performance, what's your priority? Is it the rankings, or is it getting more people from the university involved in sport? What's your priority?
I think for me, it's performance, because I feel like as soon as we can increase our performance, then the university will recognise that sport is important at university, and that will then help the methods to increase participation. So yeah, my drive is for performance.
So do you not think the university would recognise it if more people are involved? You think the university is more inclined to help fund it if it's more results led?
I think, yeah, as soon as we start to get our results up higher, to see a higher sporting drive, then the university will start to focus on it. Because you can look at like the Olympics. The government didn't really recognise cycling as a proper sport until we started to get the good results in cycling. So there's lots of examples of sport that we did that, but I think that's my main focus.
Participation or performance?
I feel performance, focus a bit more on performance. If people see clubs performing better, they're more than likely to go, oh, I actually may go and participate in that sport. I feel if increasing performance, participation kind of follows on quite nicely. Also with the university, I think Katie's right, the university doesn't really have a strategy on sport, and I think making the university more aware of how important sport is within students at the university. The university, they'll always go out advertising when new students are coming they'll go on about bucks. So if we can see bucks points being increased and that's actually getting us into top 20 next year and top 10 in the future, then I could think the money we get probably from the university and the profile they kind of take on sport at university would increase.
Okay, it fits in rather nicely that you've both agreed there, because my next question is, you've both got very similar manifestos. I've read them both, they're both very, very similar. You've kind of agreed on every point here. I want to know, how are you different? Convince those watching at home and those fortunate enough to be with us in the studio this evening why you are the candidate to be the next VP Sport and to improve sport for every student at University of Southampton. What distinguishes you from each other?
Okay, well, firstly, I'm a girl. But not that makes a difference. I have quite a large AU background, part of 4 AU clubs. That doesn't mean that I'm not involved in intramural. I do have a lot of friends that are in intramural. I know the problems from there. I think my main drive is, I joined Southampton because of my course, but to me, Southampton sport was very important, and I was very worried when I came to university that I wouldn't be able to do sport at a high level, and I think that's a fear. I have been able to do it, but we can give students a higher level of sporting performance and help them more, and I feel like that's my main drive. I want to encourage students to come to our university because we are a good sporting university at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's a couple of points in my manifesto, which I know aren't in Katie's, is I've strictly spoken to some postgrads and also medics. Postgrads, yeah, a lot are quite happy to join AU clubs that are predominantly undergraduates, but there are some who don't want to deal with the drama sometimes that you find in predominantly run undergraduate clubs without going out all the time. So I want to create postgraduate leagues or try to find between faculties to get some competition. So if you look at it, undergraduates are here normally 3 years, postgraduates are here 4, 5, 6. So, and there's postgraduates in every faculty. So I think that's a huge area we're actually missing as an AU or as a sports zone, is postgraduates specifically. Also medics, they do feel isolated from the AU sometimes. I know some people have tried to get involved in AU clubs, and then because they're not able to make socials or things, they've said, oh, you're not actually going to be able to play, but they have a very demanding degree. So I want to make sure that change, that they feel they can integrate easily into AU clubs without being on the back step before they've even got in the door. Secondly, in medics, I want to make sure there's a problem this year with hockey getting off the ground. I know 3rd and 4th team medic teams, what they rely on is playing in intramural hockey for their competition side of things. So if this doesn't happen, I want to ensure that there's other means that they can get competitions going, because those teams, people will be in them for 5 years. That's another thing. With sport in general, I do want to raise, I have been involved with AU, I've come from a background of a small AU club, so I know what it feels like to be on a committee of a small AU club and the issues you face with trying to get funding. And then I've also sat this year with my sports participation role. I have seen all the problems that could arise from AUC to intramural to sitting on sports zone. know how it all works. I know how the funding's done. I know what goes on AUC. I know the issues and communication problems we have with sport and wellbeing.
Okay, I'd just like to revisit the point you mentioned about postgrads and postgrad involvement. You said they're not joining AU clubs because of the drama, the undergrad drama. You also suggested that you'd make leagues for postgrads and postgrad teams. Are there enough postgrads to make those teams? Is that a feasible option? And do you not think you should be doing more to encourage postgrads to be joining the teams? Otherwise, it's just exclusion. Basically, what I'm asking is, what is the drama that is putting off postgrads? And what option is it feasible to offer a league just for postgrads as an alternative?
I think it is not. It's to accommodate those postgrads who don't want to be involved really with AU clubs. There's plenty of postgrads out there who will go and get involved with AU clubs, which is fine, go on, do that, but we're missing those postgrads who don't really want to get involved. It's the dramas, like the socials drama, and then because on some nights out, it's that kind of culture in some of the more traditional clubs that postgrads, they've been there, some have been there, done that, even at this uni or old unis, and they've got PhDs and big theses to write. They don't want to be dealing with that, so... And also,
I'm glad that you mentioned the culture. Obviously, a lot of sports culture, there is the belief of initiations. Is that something that either of you have either of you done an initiation?
No.
Are any of you aware of them within the university?
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you were VP, was that something that you would seek to... How would you respond to that if you heard of initiations happening? What would be your response?
The response, there's, I believe, a policy being submitted. It's been taken to sport zone. I think it's been taken forward about the SUSU start. So going forward next year at VP, it'd be looking and following that policy.
Yeah, I don't feel like it hasn't really been, at the moment, AU clubs know that they cannot have an initiation, and when I joined lacrosse, there was nothing there was no term of initiations. We just had a few socials that were slightly more wild than the other ones. It wasn't, but there was nothing that was more like ridiculously just beyond what should be socially acceptable.
If they are going on, which they shouldn't be, students need to be aware they don't have to do that. They don't need to feel pressured into doing that. And if it is going on, then they don't need to feel worried or scared. They can come and speak to us.
Yeah.
They don't need to see us as people above them and stuff. We're there to deal with that and there to speak to on their level.
I think all that needs to happen is that AU clubs need to recognise that there is a social side to a club and a playing side, a sporting side to the club. They are very much integrated, but students shouldn't feel like they have to be involved in the social side of things to also play. That should be something that is not happening. So that would be my line. I would try and encourage AU clubs to ensure that the social side of clubs is not the most important thing. At the end of the day, people join a society to play the sport, and the social side comes as another side of it. It's a bonus.
Social should be complementary to the sport. If you have good players, you're not playing them just because they're not coming in the socials. That as Team Southampton, we should be fielding our top teams, our best players, and just if they can't make a social, and that's going to affect their possibility of being selected for a team, that shouldn't happen. Socials complement is a great way, because instead of being training to just socialise with the teammates, but that it needs to be complementary to the actual sport and not overshadow the sport.
There's been a few things this year where they focused on non-alcoholic socials. And I actually think this is an area that can be encouraged a lot more. I mean, there's some of the great, the best team bonding sessions I've ever had are the ones where you all sit around the TV and have like a pasta meal or something. And I'm sure those things are going on, but we don't really know about them. And I think that's something we should be encouraged a bit more.
Because I mean, it is a problem, or at least it does happen. I mean, there are several sports teams here often have socials where the boys chasing the girls. They've got the hunts and foxes. Hockey have the oldest gent ties himself to the young female freshers. Is that just banter, or is that something that you'd like to address? Is sexism a problem in AU sport?
Wow, that's a question. I would say, coming from as a girl myself, I wouldn't say there was. I've had absolutely no problems with I've had limited problems on that side. Any problems I've had, I've expected them. Maybe it is something I haven't really considered it, I've got to be honest. It's something that I will think about if I get elected into the role, now that you've raised it, and really try and reassess if that's an area that people feel is a problem, maybe try and get some feedback from the clubs, and decide whether or not that is a problem.
So it's not something that you should expect. Are you aware of any sexism in AU sport at all?
I'm not aware, no issues have been forward, but if it is happening, I think people join sports that are the bigger sports, like hockey and that, do understand that these initiations, kind of traditions go on, but that then does need to be a line sometimes of what those traditions or what people feel they need to do. They don't need to commit to doing those things. I think there is an issue with sexism within sport. It's starting to work with the VP Welfare next year about, and also I want to run campaigns about barriers to sport about gender, race, and all of that. And I think that's something that could be raised there, and making clubs aware. Clubs should all be inclusive, and yeah.
Okay, let's move on to something a bit more pleasant. Storage. What do we all think about storage? How would you deal with it? Is it a problem? Where is the funding to address it?
I think there's quite a big problem with storage at the moment. There's limited space on the Jubilee campus, on the Highfield campus, and there's also, I think, a lack of storage facilities at Wide Lane. Next year, if I was elected, I would aim to increase the number of lockups that we have at Wide Lane as a fundamental thing. That's quite something that can be easily done. We don't have enough, and it would be really easily done. In terms of on Highfield campus, it's a bit more difficult. I think you can try and I don't really know very much about it. I think you'd have to try and see where the space is, see whether or not it is possible to distribute the storage that we have better to improve the storage facilities that we've got.
Yeah, storage, huge issue for any club. I think the way to go back, I know there's a review currently going on about inter-storage with all the students' groups within CC, and looking into possibility of making further storage within CC. One thing I want to ensure is there's no guarantee if any more new storage is made that's going to go to sports groups. I want to make sure that it does go to sport groups, or at least a percentage of it goes to sports groups. Within Upper Wide Lane, containers have been mentioned by Sport and Wellbeing before. They have looked into feasibility. I want to chase this up, basically. With that, I also think it's just about management of space, the space we have, because I know some of the cages we have are just like piled. I think it's looking into like putting extra shelving and just more organisation of the space we have, rather than things just kind of being dumped and piled up on top of each other. I think that's one way we could possibly make storage more effective.
Okay, and also a lot of sport here, it gets delegated, it goes through sport and wellbeing. If you could change anything about sport and wellbeing, what would it be? Or even how can we make it cheaper?
I think the first point that springs to mind is making intramural more student-led. At the end of the day, it's students that participate in it. It should be students running it. Yeah, that's the main point.
Sport and wellbeing. I think it's making membership more value for money. Take Winchester, for example. Winchester don't actually know, or few students know, that they could get membership at Riverside, Park Lane, and then also have access to sport and wellbeing facilities. This, I don't think it's advertised very well at all. I think there's a lot sport and wellbeing have to offer. I think it's about just advertising what they have, because not many people know about the Water Sports Activity Centre and the courses they run. It's £90 for some boat course, which could cost £200. That's ridiculously cheap and very good value for money. And also looking to have on membership more facilities, because sport and wellbeing are very good at open to expanding what's actually on their membership, what facilities are available. So.
Okay, now unfortunately we're coming to the end of our time together, so I'd like to give you the opportunity now to just have a final statement, just to remind people why they should be voting for you, what distinguishes you as their next candidate for VP Sport.
I'm from an AU club background. I know the problems that happen in AU sport, and I also have experience. I know what the problems are in intramural as well. I think my focus is on improving performance to improve participation and increase the Team Southampton presence on campus to help the university to change its mind about sport and make it a higher priority, and that's why you should vote Katie Lightowler for VP Sports.
Vote me for VP Sports. Basically, I want to put Southampton at the forefront of sporting universities in performance, participation and progress. This is for raising the performance of sport within the university. It's also looking at increasing funding, training, storage. These are all issues that clubs face every year. I really want to make sure they are sorted. Also raising profile into mural, make sure it's more advertised, and making sport accessible for all is one big point I really want to push, because anyone should be able to access sport of any ability, and push so even recreational sport. It's just giving people those facilities and equipment to be able to do sport.
Okay, can I have another round of applause for your VP Sport candidates? So we'll be back a little bit later with your main event of tonight, the presidential debate. Stay tuned to CCTV, it's going to be a doozy.